Welcome back once again. Now I'm joined by Justin Kollar and Thomas Maurer, and we're going to go around the SEC and preview some of the games this weekend.
All right.
So let's start off with LSU. Big matchup this weekend against South Carolina. Obviously, a team that Missouri kind of dismantled last weekend. So what should we expect to see from LSU this weekend?
Well, I'm not thinking too much, but I think we're going to see Fournette go off again. Brandon Harris, their starting quarterback, is just kind of finishing half of his completion. He's 33 of 61 in the entire season. And, they've only had 14 plays greater than 10 yards passing down the field. They average about 95 yards a game throwing the football. I think the key to victory here for South Carolina is they're going to load the box and try to stop Fournette, obviously. But, unfortunately, South Carolina's run defense is ranked 75th in the nation. So I think Fournette's going to have another great game here. He's going to run for another easy 200 yards, I believe.
Yeah, just to kind of go off of what he was saying, it really just comes down to one person, Leonard Fournette. If you look at 99 carries this year, 864 yards, 11 touchdowns, this dude is single-handedly beating teams. You just look at the way they took down Auburn a couple weeks ago. He just single-handedly just ran over everyone. And then you look at South Carolina, they're just kind of have a shaky year, last in the SEC East. Really, they don't have a running back. Their leading rusher is Lorenzo Nunez, the quarterback, so that can be a problem. So, I just think that LSU is really going to come in there. They're really going to, just run all over South Carolina. As I said again, South Carolina is looking a little shaky. They're not looking like a very strong SEC team this year. So I say you look to have Leonard Fournette have a big game against South Carolina.
Fournette averaging 213 yards a game right now. Absolutely unheard of. I think for a lot of teams, it's not a matter of how to stop him, but just how to contain him at this point.
For sure.
Yeah, and it's unfortunate for South Carolina, too. Obviously, the flooding and everything down there. So a potential home game they have is now down in LSU. So I think that's going to come into play as well.
Definitely. I think it absolutely will, guys. And we're going to move on now and talk about some Georgia football. Suffered the loss last week against Alabama.
Yeah.
A lot of people thought that Georgia was going to kind of take over the SEC this year, but they really got stopped by Bama in a statement win. So what can we expect to see this weekend? We've got Georgia playing this weekend.
Well, I think Georgia's going to come back here. They're going to bounce back in Rocky Top. Their superior offensive line is really going to have Chubb running very strong again. But back to Tennessee, I think often the blame gets put on their quarterback Joshua Dobbs. But I really think that part of this blame needs to go on the wide receiving core. They got Marquez North, Joshua Long, and Juwan Jennings. They're all solid wide receivers, but neither of these guys has more than 12 catches on the season. Actually, their tight end leads the team in receptions, which is placing Dobbs in a lot of uncomfortable positions with his legs. And he's trying to make plays that way, but it's not working out for him. Yeah. So I think I'm going with Georgia on this one.
Okay. I would definitely have to agree with you on this one. That Georgia, stat-wise, and you look at their roster, they're definitely the better team. You look at Grayson Lambert, 67% passing completions, over 800 yards thrown. Nick Chubb, we all know what he's doing this year. You look at Tennessee, they're not really looked at as a really strong, superior team. They got a few different athletes in Joshua Dobbs, the quarterback. They got Jalen Hurd, the running back. So they got a few athletes there. This team, Georgia, and then the team Tennessee, they've had a lot of past close games. The past 2 years, it's been a 3-point difference. So I really see that Tennessee might come out on top on this one. I say watch out for a close game. Georgia obviously has the better team, but I think Tennessee's going to make a run for their money today.
Georgia seems to have one of the most complete offenses in the SEC with Grayson Lambert and Nick Chubb at the helm. Now on the other side of the SEC, the Razorbacks are in Alabama for a shot at the number 8 Crimson Tide this weekend. Guys, do you think the Razorbacks have any chance?
Unfortunately not. I mean, both teams are coming off really big wins here, but let's get one thing straight. Alabama is not Tennessee, and Tennessee is not Alabama. So, Alabama, again, has 56 straight victories against unranked opponents, and, Arkansas obviously is unranked here. So I think you're going to have Alabama come again for another win. But the interesting thing is you really have a power versus power matchup. Arkansas is ranked 17th in offensive efficiency, and Alabama is 4th in defensive efficiency. And, I think it's going to be a close one just like last year, but it's like I say, offense sells the tickets, defense wins the game. So I'm going to go with Alabama in this one. I think it's going to be close, though.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with you. I think I'm going to go with Alabama in this game. If you look at Alabama's defense, they've only given up 16 points a game this year. The only bad game they've had is really against Ole Miss. You just look at Derrick Henry, just the way he's running over everyone, 93 carries, 9 touchdowns this year. Arkansas, they do have some great players. You look at Brandon Allen, over 1,300 yards passing, 8 touchdowns, 66% completion. They look like on stat, looking at the paper, you see that Arkansas, they have a good team, but I really don't see Alabama letting loose on this one. I think they got their bad game out of the way. I think Alabama, with their quarterback, I think with their running back and Derrick Henry, I think they're really just going to run all over. I got a blowout here. I think it's going to be 41-28 Alabama. So.
Expanding on that, I think Calvin Ridley, the Alabama wide receiver, really showed me something last week that they have the ability to stretch the field now. That was something that they haven't had early on in this season. So I think that's going to be a key for them because they've been really trying to run. But now that they can stretch the field, I think Alabama has the edge on this one. But I will say, if Arkansas has any chance to win this game, they're going to need to rush for over 200 yards. And, I think they really need to allow their running backs to make some plays and keep Brandon Allen, the Arkansas quarterback, comfortable because we've seen in situations earlier this season, he's just not that reliable or that consistent. So, I think it's going to be close, but I could definitely see it going the other way as well.
Yeah, definitely.
It was Arkansas's run game that went off last week, had 275 yards on the ground, so definitely an impressive performance from the Razorbacks last week, but I got to agree with you guys. I think Bama's going to win this one easily. So finally, let's hear a final pick and a score for the Mizzou-Florida game. I've heard a lot more optimism from Mizzou than I expected, so what do you guys think for this one?
I'll let you go first.
You know what? I might sound a little biased here, but, I love my Mizzou team. I think earlier in the segment they were talking about the homecoming crowd. Everyone's here. It's going to be under the lights. It's going to be jam-packed. I think Mizzou's going to pull an upset here. I think it's going to be 28-21 Mizzou. And I think that will get us back ranked, and hopefully we can continue with a strong season. So,
I'm going to say 17-14 Missouri, game-winning field goal.
Andrew Baggett makes a game-winning field goal.
Yep. And then the team, we rush the field and rip down the end zone.
I'll believe it when I see it. I've got Florida in this one. I've taken them all week. I think the thing that got me was leading up to the Kentucky game, I picked Missouri to win every single day. Yeah. The very last minute, I picked Kentucky to win that one. So, that's got to change your mind down the season. But we're going to look at the picks that all of the execs had for this weekend around the SEC. A lot of guys taking kind of the obvious picks. However, Jared Kollar really going out there, taking a lot of upsets, which
he must see something that we don't.
Definitely. I think I'm the only one who took Florida this weekend, though. A lot of confidence in the Missouri Tigers.
And in other news, this is your last week being the anchor.
It is. Ironically so, isn't it?
Yeah.
Well, guys, thanks so much for coming on. Unfortunately, that's going to be all the time we have for the show. But be sure to catch full episodes and get game recaps at mutv.missouri.edu. And then when you give up on studying, head to mutvstream.missouri.edu for all your favorite movies for free. Also, don't forget to follow us on Twitter and like us on Facebook and all that stuff. Keep an eye out for Tailgaters and TW23 with Evan and I. That's Tuesday, 7 and 8 o'clock on MUTV. Also, keep an eye out for the game tonight. It's going to be 6:30 on SEC Network, Mizzou versus Florida. For all of the guest analysts on this show, I'm Matt Horn.